What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to drift in Forza Horizon 6 on a sim wheel. This is going to be the ultimate guide to get you guys off the ground and drifting. This can be a pretty frustrating process, especially for your newcomers to sim wheels, but this guide is going to make it that much easier for you guys to get started. We're going to go over wheel settings, car tune, and get into the fundamentals of drifting. Gonna make this quick and painless and easy to digest as possible. That way you guys can get out there, start getting doors with your boys on the sim wheels. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into wheel setup. Alright guys, first things first, I am using a Logitech G923, but this should be pretty standard across the board. I'll do another setup when my Moza wheel comes in. But you're going to want to go to settings, scroll down to controls, change input mapping, go over to wheel, and immediately set it to custom wheel profile. Now, keep this all pretty much exactly how it comes, except for one thing. I want you guys to go over to e-brake and remap this to the right paddle shifter. You guys should be on manual with clutch and have a shifter. If you don't, then don't bind it to this, but I find using the right paddle is the easiest to keep track of the e-brake function while your wheel is upside down and rotating in multiple directions while drifting. Aside from that, we're going to back out and go down to advanced controls, and you guys can basically just copy what's on screen here. And now that you guys have got all the wheel settings in game, it's very imperative that if you're using a Logitech wheel, a Moza wheel, whatever you're using, that you open the software for that wheel before you actually launch the game. Forza is notoriously picky with input devices, so make sure you start the game with your wheel and have your wheel software open before you start Forza. Now that the wheel settings are out of the way, let's go ahead and build our drift car. Now, for you guys starting out, I'd recommend power anywhere from 500 to 700. This car right now makes 727 horsepower, 639 pound-feet of torque. You guys don't want too much power. I know everybody wants to go in, put the biggest engine, and make the most power possible with their car, but the more horsepower you have, the harder it is gonna be to tailor in those gears, and the more horsepower, generally speaking, for drifting means the more wheel speed, which also makes it harder for learners. So your best bet is gonna be sticking from that 5 to 700 wheel horsepower range. Whether you want to engine swap it or stick with the stock motor and build it, that's completely up to you, as long as you land between 5 and 7 to 750 wheel horsepower. Body kit, since this isn't drag or anything, make the car look how you want it to look, man. Build it, make it nice, and make it your own. Now for drivetrain swaps, we're obviously not going to do anything. We're not controller drifters making 3 million score on every drift zone. Leave it rear wheel drive. Again, for aero and appearance, just make the car look how you want it to look. Same for your rim setup. You can have the same fronts and different rear. It doesn't matter. You guys really just make the car look how you want it to look. But what is important is the tires. You're obviously going to want to put the drift tire compound on it. And depending what horsepower you're making really depends on the tire size. But for our 700-ish wheel horsepower, we have 225s in the front, and in the rear, we're rocking 265s. That seems to be the sweet spot for this power in this car. Again, that is subject to change between cars, wheelbases, and horsepower figures. Wheel size, this is really up to you, but 9 times out of 10 on all my drift cars, I'm running 18s. You're going to want to make this the same on both corners. Drivetrain, this is important. Go ahead, max out the clutch, and put a race transmission in it. Drive shaft, fully upgraded. Differential, another important one. We have another drift part coming in, drift differential. Brakes, this is really up to you. I max out my brakes on everything. It feels better with the specific Logitech pedal setup I have. Springs, another drift oriented part. Of course, you're going to want the drift springs. A lot of people say you can put race, but it is proven time and time again you get way more angle out of drift. So go ahead and put drift on. Anti-roll bars, go ahead and max those out so you can adjust how much side bite you get when sliding. And this part is controversial. You can go ahead, throw a cage in it, or you can leave it stock. Personally speaking, I like to leave the interior full weight with no cage, as well as the weight reduction. This is going to help us weight transfer the car, and really it's only coming in at 3,200 pounds. We're not super heavy, and it's just going to help the transition and the weight transfers. When the car gets too light, it gets a little bit too nimble, and it takes away from the weight transfer abilities. And on wheel, when you're trying to get those buttery smooth lines, weight transfer and side bite is something you really want to dial in. So I leave it full weight and without a cage. And that basically wraps it up. Once you have the drift tires, the drift suspension, and the drift differential with anywhere from about 500 to 750 wheel horsepower, we're ready to get into tuning. Tire pressures are obviously going to change with horsepower. Today we're running 720 wheel horsepower, and these are my tire setups. You can run anywhere from 19 to, well, 31 in the rear, and anywhere from 32 to about 25, 26 in the front. As far as gearing goes, again, this is going to change depending on horsepower, what transmission you have in it. General rule of thumb is you want first gear to kind of just get you going, second gear for donuts, figure eights, and small tight corners, third gear for the longer sweeping corners, roundabouts, getting onto the highway, things like that. You will hit fourth sometimes, but very rarely, kind of just for mangying at really high speeds. Fourth, fifth, and sixth are pretty much just typical driving gears. Alignment, this varies as well. For wheel setups in particular, I always run anywhere from -1 to -2 degrees of camber in the front. Always run 0 degrees in the rear. Half a degree to 1.5 degree toe out in the front. I found the sweet spot is 0.5 to 0.8 for most setups. Always 7 degrees high caster. Anti-roll bars are again going to vary car to car, but essentially the softer these are, the more side bite you'll have, and the stiffer they are, the less side bite they'll have. You'll kind of glide through the drift a little bit easier with the anti-roll bar stiffer. When they're softer, the sidewall and your tires are going to want to bite in more when your car is driving, well, sideways. Springs, again, this is going to change how things grip. Generally speaking, how anti-roll bars and springs come from factory is pretty much where you're going to want to leave it. If you want more grip, make them a little bit softer. If you want a little bit more of that glassy, buttery feeling, stiffen them up a little bit. Ride height, it's really depending on you. The higher the ride height, the more side bite you'll have, again, kind of like anti-roll bars. For me though, in drifting, the JDM culture, you're pretty much going to want to slam that sucker. Dampening, again, you're pretty much good out of the gate with how this comes from factory. I like to mess around with the dampening in the middle between soft and stiff. Give it a little bit more, give it a little bit less, depending on how the rebound and the bump stiffness feels. But 9 times out of 10 for drift cars, you're not going to play around with the dampening section a whole lot unless you're really dialing in a car for a specific drift track. Beginners though, you can pretty much leave this as is. Aero, if it is adjustable, leave it right dead set in the middle. Brake, you can do this however you want, but for wheels on any car really, I find a 50% bias with 100%, which is right in the middle for pressure, is where you're going to want to be. Differential, I always have 100 acceleration and 100 deceleration. All right, and now we're ready to start drifting. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna start with donuts, then we're gonna transition to drifting in a circle, not the same thing, and then we're gonna get into doing some figure eights, then we'll finally go over to the drift track and start linking some corners. Now, in order to do this, the best spot is any drag strip. I like this one down here at the very bottom of the map, the Irokawa drag strip. Right behind the beams here, if we turn around, we have all this big open space. It's perfect. We're just gonna stay in first gear for the donuts, the drifting in a circle, and the figure eights. So step one, we're gonna turn the wheel to the left or the right. We're gonna clutch in, rev the car up, dump the clutch. Okay, just simple, just like that. You notice I'm not flooring it and bashing limiter. You just want to dump the clutch and hold about half throttle. Now to initiate the donut, we're going to roll into it very slowly, clutch in, turn, gas, dump the clutch. Hold the wheel in the same position and start feathering the throttle a bit, and we'll be doing a donut. Now to transition from doing a donut like this, where I'm holding the wheel in one place and modulating the gas, you can see if I floor it, the car starts to kind of wander a little bit. It's not smooth, but if I back off the throttle, you can see the donut starts to smooth out and we're going in a smooth, consistent circle. Next, we want to be doing this exact same thing, doing donuts to the left, but drifting in a circle. And by that, I mean we need our front wheels to be pointed to the right while we're doing exactly this. Right now they're pointed to the left and I'm holding the wheel, and that's all we're gonna get. So from here, just rotate the wheel. Drive into it, rotate the wheel. And that's really all drifting is. You can see I'm steering, I'm kind of rocking the wheel back and forth. and I'm keeping the RPMs fairly steady with a little bit of modulation. Now our front wheels are turned to the right, but we're still drifting to the left. We're not just doing a full donut like this. So once you get the donut down and then you're able to start drifting left, then you'll go from having the same throttle modulation, but starting to rock the wheel and feel how the car reacts to you toying with the wheel back and forth ever so slightly. So donuts was for throttle modulation, drifting in a circle was for that same throttle modulation, but adding in steering back and forth, keeping that car balanced while it's doing the donut. And next thing, we're gonna get into actually doing figure eights. When we do figure eights, it's essentially the same thing. We're gonna initiate it like a donut, counter steer and do the donut as though we're drifting in a circle, but then we're gonna transition out of the donut and into another one, but the opposite way. And that looks something like this. Start off by exactly the same, get the car going, turn the wheel to the left, clutch in, clutch kick it. Let's just get this donut going again. Okay, you've got your donut going. Let's counter steer and start drifting in a circle. Once we're drifting in a circle, we're gonna drift out of the circle and then go the other way. Drift in a circle this way a few times. And then we're going to go back to what we were doing initially. When you do the figure eight, I implore you to drift in a circle for 2 or 3 rotations of the circle before you then go out and drift the other way. And that's going to be our figure eights. That's not only going to show you throttle control, steering wheel modulation, but it's also going to get you to go from the car going to the right and then weight transferring to the left, catching it, and away you go. And you'll notice when I come out of the donut and go into the other direction, I let the steering wheel turn for me and then I grab the wheel. Now, when you're transitioning from a left-hand donut to a right-hand donut doing a figure eight, when you let go of that wheel, that's the time when you want to be off throttle. When you get back on throttle is when you want to catch the wheel. So for example, let's initiate our donut. Let's start drifting in a circle. And then when we go to do our figure eight, off the gas, catch, back on the gas. Off the gas, catch, back on the gas. Off the gas, catch, back on the gas. And see, I'm not perfect. But in those transitions from a left-hand donut to a right-hand donut, you want to get off the gas as your wheel's rotating. When you catch the wheel, back on the gas. So we're going to transition, off the gas, catch the wheel. And if you don't have enough wheel speed, it won't work great. Transition, off the gas, catch the wheel, back on the gas. Transition, off the gas, catch the wheel, back on the gas. Transition again, off the gas, catch the wheel, back on the gas. Transition. Transition. And just like that, when you're transitioning from a left-hand drift to a right-hand drift or vice versa, and you let off that wheel and you're waiting to catch it, you should be off the gas. When you want to go back on the gas is when you want to catch that wheel and go back into the throttle and steering modulation. Once you guys are comfortable with doing donuts, drifting in a circle, and doing some figure eights smoothly, I'd say once you get about 2 to 4 figure eights back to back in one swift go, then we can move to the drift track and actually start linking 2 corners. Pick 2 corners. I'm going to show you where the drift track is and what corners we're going to do, but that's really the best way to go about this. Donuts, drifting in a circle, figure eights. It's time for the track. From the Irokawa drag strip, we're going to go straight up past the festival, and it's this track right here. Here's the festival, straight up, fast travel to this track. All right, now that we're at this track, this is where it should spawn you in. We're immediately gonna go to the right, and this is what we're gonna be taking on. we've got a left-handed corner, straightens out into another left-handed corner. Once we complete those, we're going to turn around and they'll become a right-handed to a straight to another right-handed corner to get us back where we are. So let's go ahead, start driving. For this, we're going to go into second gear. First corner, it's going to straighten out. Second corner. We're going to drift those, and once we get to the end, we're just simply going to turn around and run those back the other way. To start off drifting these, we're going to drift the first corner, straighten out, drift the second corner. This is where two options come into play: clutch kicking or e-brake sliding. First, we're going to start off with the e-brake. Start driving, get the car into second, clutch in, e-brake, let the wheel go, and when you get back on the gas is when you grab the wheel. Clutch in, e-brake, just like that, just like the figure eights. When the car starts to slide and you let go of the wheel, you should be off the gas. When you catch the wheel, back on the gas. Let's go into this. Clutch, e-brake, straighten out, clutch, e-brake. Just like I said before, when the wheel's rotating for itself and you're waiting to catch it, you're off the gas. When you catch it, you're back on the gas. All right, one more time. Clutch, e-brake. Clutch, e-brake. Now that's the first way to do it. The second way to do it is with the clutch, and that's in the form of a clutch kick. So let's drive up here. Again, second gear. And all we're going to do is literally kick the clutch. Just like that. Again, kick the clutch. It's really as simple as that. Me as a drifter, I prefer clutch kicks over e-brakes. Let's head back. What you're going to want to do is turn into the drift, then clutch kick, get off the throttle until the wheel settles. And again, when you grab the wheel again, you're back on the throttle. Ready? Turn in, clutch kick, off gas, catch. Turn in, clutch kick, off gas, catch, back on gas. Just like that. You initiate the drift, you get off the gas, you let the wheel rotate. When you catch the wheel, you're back on the gas. That's the main premise of it, and it's all throttle modulation and steering modulation. Now let's go a bit faster, still in second gear, and link these two corners. First, we're going to do an e-brake. Get up to speed, clutch in, e-brake, catch, and we're just going to keep it riding. As you can see, the car was about to spin off, so what did I do? I got off throttle and I saved it. Get up to speed, turn in, clutch, e-brake, back on the gas, modulate the steering, modulate the gas. And you can see there, at no point am I ever hitting the limiter or steering like crazy. It's all smooth steering and it's all smooth throttle work. Now, let's go ahead and do that, but with a clutch kick. The basis of it is fairly simple. You're dancing with the throttle and the steering wheel. Go in, clutch kick, catch the wheel. Again, you can see my hands going back and forth, and you can hear the throttle going up and down, up and down. You're really drifting is just dancing with the throttle and the steering. Let's go back. Turn in, clutch kick. Really just like that. It doesn't have to be pretty. Once you get these corners down, you can drift, straighten out, drift again, and then you can link the whole thing. Then we can move into a slight manji. Now we've learned throttle control, modulation of the steering wheel, and how those sync up together when you initiate to when you start drifting. We've learned clutch kicks, and we've learned e-brake slides. Now we can go ahead and throw in a little manji, meaning right now we're gonna drift this left corner, then on the straight we're gonna drift right, and then on the next left corner we're gonna drift left again. Clutch in, e-brake, catch the wheel, manji the other way, and then back in. And that's really the fundamentals of drifting. As long as you guys can master doing donuts, which He's really just holding the wheel and modulating the gas. Then go into drifting in a circle, which will teach you throttle and steering modulation together. And then doing figure eights, which is again steering and throttle modulation, as well as weight transferring of the car from a left-handed donut to a right-handed donut in synchronicity. You guys should be able to hit the track and just focus on putting those useful skills to practice on the track. The track is really just a big figure eight. You'll be drifting left, then you'll be drifting right, and it's all at different speeds. Stay determined. When I started drifting on a sim wheel, it took me forever. It was infuriating, but trust me guys, you will start to understand it. And then once you start to get a little bit better, this is how things should look. And I want you guys, as I do this lap, to take notes. Take notes of my leg on the clutch, take notes of my right leg on the foot brake and the throttle. Take notes of my hands and how I'm doing it and how I'm keeping things smooth. I'm not going to rage this. I'm going to do it very smooth, very gentle, and very fluent. And you'll notice on that lap I threw in a bit of everything. I did a few e-brake slides, I did a few clutch kicks, and the whole time I was modulating the throttle paired to the modulation of my steering wheel. Trust me guys, just practice. Practice makes perfect with drifting. It'll take you a while. It's frustrating. You're going to want to sell your wheel. You're going to want to forget about it. You're going to want to go back to Warzone. Just trust the process. Come back and watch this video, and I promise you guys, if you master donuts, drifting in a circle, and doing figure eights, you'll be able to come on track and do perfect. If you guys need any more help than what this video already gave you, go ahead and join the Discord. Link is in the description of this video and in the bio of this channel. We are always down to help. We have channels open for drift tuning, wheel setup tuning, wheel setups, drift maps, how to drift, and there's people in there that are always down to join up in a lobby with you and give you some first-person real-world tips on site, not just watching a video. But the basis is donuts, drifting in a circle, figure eights. Master those and you guys will be sliding around, getting doors with your boys in no time. Thanks for watching. Comment, like, subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace out.